We should never rely too much on anyone on matters of our own affairs. And while we can take lessons from the experience of others, we must take responsibility for our own development. Hi there, I'm Adrian Atkinson, and on that tip for success, we welcome you to Jamaica Magazine. Coming up on today's pages, Jamaica's economic progress under the IMF Extended Fund Facility, plus wealth-creating opportunities through medical tourism. Later, today is the start of National Heritage Week, and we kick off our celebrations by looking at the life of National Heroine, Nanny of the Maroons. Welcome.
I remember when I didn't like school and Mommy used to have to wake me up. Tabla, hurry up. You're going to be late for school.
Hey, now that I have a tablet, you don't need to wake me up. Since Mommy and Daddy bought me a tablet, I use my tablet for all kinds of cool stuff. I use my tablet to read books. I use my tablet to learn about history and science. I use my tablet to help with my homework. I even use it to talk to my daddy at work. Hello, Daddy!
Learning is easy and fun with a tablet. Take care of your tablet, use it wisely.
A team from the International Monetary Fund and the government is soon to release results for the country's 13th review under the IMF Extended Fund Facility. The country's economic performance to date is trending in the right direction, as we'll see in this update.
Policy implementation under the Economic Reform Program has remained exceptionally strong since the start of the program. The economy continues to reflect generally positive trends.
Key indicators for the country as at July 2016 continue to show clear signs that the economy is improving. The Planning Institute of Jamaica estimated gross domestic product GDP growth for the second quarter, April to June 2016, to be 1.1%.
It was a good, strong number. And what we see in this estimate is that all the sectors across the board, except for mining and government services, grew.
This momentum is expected to continue along a trend of increased growth as recorded over the last 4 years.
So if we look back to the January to March quarter, it was 0.8. Remember the April to June is 1.1. So the quarter before, which is January to March, is 0.8. And the quarter before that, which is October to December, is 0.6. So there's a kind of build-up in the rate of growth of the GDP.
The goods-producing industry recorded growth of 2.3%, while the services sector grew 0.8% for the first quarter of the fiscal year April to June, compared to similar period last year. In the goods-producing industry, agriculture recorded the strongest growth, up 7%, manufacturing up 0.7%, and construction up 0.4%. Mining and quarrying declined by 1.3%. Under services, all industries grew with the exception of government services, which is down 0.2%. Electricity and water industry went up 5.5%, and hotel and restaurants up 1.6% over the same period last year.
Manufacturing has been modest and steady, and on the positive side, influenced very strongly by the Petrojam factory, which is a very high value output manufacturing operation. So that tends to skew the performance of manufacturing quite a bit. Construction, modest but positive also.
Economic growth in Jamaica is recovering gradually. The growth in fiscal year 2015-16 has been revised up to 1%, driven by agriculture and manufacturing. Growth is expected to reach 1.7% in the current fiscal year 2016-17 as ongoing investments crystallize and agricultural recovery continues.
Preliminary balance of payments data released from the central bank pointed to the current account showing a surplus of $116.3 million for the quarter January to March 2016. This is an improvement of $136 million relative to the corresponding period in 2015. The outturn for this quarter contributed to a current account deficit of $259.3 million, or 1.9% of GDP for fiscal year 2015-16. The current account measures everything the country buys abroad in goods and services versus everything that it sells, with the balance being the current account deficit or surplus.
And I say this is a remarkable number. Back in 2013, it was 9 point something percent, and for us to get down to 1.9 is tremendous. What that means is that we have enormous savings of foreign exchange. So very good news on the balance of payments side.
The savings were influenced by decreases in oil prices and improvement in tourism performance over the same period last year.
To the extent that the growth agenda is able to move forward, and I would add that we are seeing some green shoots, and it all needs to come together. We see agriculture recovering, we see manufacture recovering, we see tourism improving. So there are lots of pockets of growth that are happening. The BPO sector is growing. So I think once this growth gets deeply entrenched, the unemployment rate is going to come down, and that will, lift the whole base up, and that's the goal we have.
The Bank of Jamaica BOJ report for the quarter ending June showed continued expansion of credit to the private sector, up 11.9% in real terms. Increased business lending was reflected in credit to the tourism, electricity, gas, and water, as well as professional and other service sectors. BOJ reduced interest rate on the 30-day certificate of deposit to 5%, the lowest policy rate on record. Looking at selected fiscal and monetary indicators for July 2016, central government had a primary surplus of $36.4 billion, far ahead of the budget of $14.2 billion, and this is due to reduced government spending. Revenue collection of $153.8 billion for the first 4 months of the fiscal year 2016-17, up 7.7%, is above target of $142.9 billion and significantly above the same period last year.
Debt remains on a downward trajectory, and the recent liability management operation has reduced refinancing risks. The government remains strident in its goal to promote equity, efficiency, and uniformity in the tax system. And with the full support from the IMF, will continue efforts aimed at rebalancing from direct taxation towards more broad-based and growth-inducing indirect tax measures.
And as tax collections continued to outperform budget in July, the best performances categories were GCT, up $2.4 billion, PAYE, up $2.4 billion, and company tax, up $1.5 billion. Travel tax and tax on interest were the main underperformers. Annual inflation is continuing at record lows, with 0.9% in June and 0.5% in July, while the net international reserve NIR at the end of August was at $2.52 billion, comfortably in excess of even the IMF target of $1.44 billion for the end of September.
The government continues to be fully committed to the reform agenda and is escalating efforts aimed at boosting growth and job creation, as well as strengthening the social protection framework, while maintaining a prudent fiscal posture.
Medical tourism provides potential for Jamaica to gain higher earnings from the tourism sector. This is an opportunity to realize significant GDP growth in the years to come. And we now take a look at this area of economic development in this next feature.
What we are looking at is a framework that will establish Jamaica as a medical tourism destination, including how do we work with a JTB to ensure that Jamaica starts being marketed as a medical tourism destination.
The opportunity we see is in a range of different treatments: surgical treatment, medical diagnostics, dentistry. That is actually already happening. I'm sure the dentists among you will already be seeing patients from the diaspora who come down here, and while they're visiting friends and family, decide to have dental treatment. And that is certainly one of the low-hanging fruit.
Big abroad in sports, music, food. And the newest kid on the block that has the world looking to jam down is medical tourism.
Essentially moving people, and typically it's from more developed countries to less developed countries, to access healthcare at an affordable cost, but still high in quality.
Which is really about people actively traveling to another country to seek medical help or medical treatments. Now, it's not so much about people coming here and while they're here having a treatment. It's really about the whole structure of a travel industry that is set up to promote people traveling overseas. So if you want to have a hip replacement, you actually go to a travel agent in the US, usually, or in the UK or Canada, wherever, and you say, where can I have my hip replacement done? And they'll give you a list of 5 or 6 countries and say, okay, this is what it costs in these countries. So there's a whole superstructure that's set up to promote this.
The government has implemented a number of policies to spur growth in this sector. The National Steering Committee on Health and Wellness Tourism, with its secretariat based at JAMPRO, looks at accreditation, regulation, and a marketing framework for the sector. The national standard for spas was developed in conjunction with the Bureau of Standards Jamaica. There's a national quality infrastructure, and the Fiscal Incentives Act, a new fiscal framework introduced in 2014, provides for reduced customs and stamp duties and corporate income tax rates, as well as a list of items that can be brought into the island duty-free. These incentives are available to both recovery hotels and medical and wellness facilities. Global investors have seen the potential for medical tourism in Jamaica. International brand Hospitan built a $2.3 billion state-of-the-art facility in Montego Bay, St. James. Additionally, it's quite the norm to hear of medical missions happening in different parts of the island. The country has been ranked second on the list of most attractive countries for medical tourism based on a 2014 index.
So why Jamaica? We already have an international global presence as a tourism destination. We do have a skilled workforce, excellent doctors, excellent dentists, excellent nurses. Our labor costs here are low, significantly lower. The proximity to the United States cannot be ignored, and that's a given. Of course, we have our natural resources. So when we talk about wellness tourism, our beaches, our spas that can be developed, advantages, of course, for a place like Jamaica to get engaged in health tourism, definitely good for the workforce, and of course, the foreign exchange.
The government will continue to promote and facilitate investment in the very lucrative medical tourism sector. Therefore, health professionals and tourism stakeholders form coalitions to help develop Jamaica as a medical tourism destination. For more on Jamaica's growing medical tourism industry, contact JAMPRO. They're based on Trafalgar Road in New Kingston. Call them at 978-7755 or 978-3337.
The JIS Heritage Competition is back. Enter your essay, poster, or photo and win big prizes. If you're aged 9 to 12 years, enter the essay competition and tell us who is your favorite Jamaican sportsman or sportswoman and why. High school students, enter the poster competition. This year's theme is Jamaica's Rich Sporting Heritage. If you're a tertiary level student, enter the photo competition. This year's theme is I Am a Sports Champion. Competition closes for all 3 categories on November 6. Get started now. For information on submission and competition guidelines, visit our website at jis.gov.jm. Call 926-359-024, extension 2137, or send an email.
A symbol of unity and strength for her people in the face of crisis, she provided outstanding leadership to defeat enemy advances. Right here in our homeland, no other than National Heroine Nanny of the Maroons claimed a victory in the first Maroon War against the British colonizers. As we celebrate Heritage Week, we have her story in this next feature.
Lend me a nanny now.
Nanny? Which of the money is that again? You know, it's long time me no use Jamaican money. Cause me not here, me in foreign.
It's the $500. The one with the only female hero on it. Nanny of the Maroons?
Yeah.
Or you in a membership either?
Yeah, you know, a little bit.
What? Oh, you finna remember the great Nanny of the Maroons? Alright, let me give you a run through.
Today, Moortown and other communities in the Blue and John Crow Mountains of northeastern Jamaica stand as permanent reminders of the bravery and fortitude of the island's only female national hero, Nanny of the Maroons. Nanny was among a group of brave enslaved men and women who dared to resist their master's rule by running away. These runaway slaves formed communities in the hilly interior of the island and fiercely protected them from the Spanish and later the British. After decades of warfare, the British finally yielded by recognizing the Maroons as an independent people with the signing of a treaty in 1739. The autonomy of the Windward Maroons is largely due to Nanny's tenacity as a revolutionary chiefess. Most of what we know about Maroon leaders, including Nanny, has been passed down through oral history, but that hasn't diluted her prominence in Jamaican folklore. According to stories, Nanny came to Jamaica as a slave from the Ashanti tribe of the Akan region of West Africa. It is said that she, along with her brothers Akompong, Kojo, Johnny, Coffee, and Kwaho, ran away from a St. Thomas plantation, settling in the mountains of Portland. Nanny remained in the Blue Mountains while her brothers branched out into other mountainous regions on the western end of the island. Popularly known as Nanny Town, Tony River, as the Maroons called it, was led by Nanny. Nanny's community was well organized, with its members surviving on animals raised and hunted, as well as crops grown and raided from plantations. Security came in the form of the location of the community high in the Blue Mountains, weapons seized in raids, and traditional African weapons of bow, arrows, and spears. Tony River was destroyed in one of the many fights between the Maroons and the British, causing Nanny to move her community deeper into the hills to what is now present-day Moortown.
Oh, me remember now. But you see, this part of the story, I hear it time and time again. But what I'm curious about though is what kind of woman she was. I mean, like, with all the fighting to maintain freedom, a family. Did she have any husbands?
Yes, man. Nanny was a woman for all seasons. From the stories me hear, she didn't marry a man named Arnold, but them never have any children. That no means that she never married any children, you know. She was mommy nanny, granny nanny. She helped raise most of the children in Tony River.
Innit?
Nanny was our mother. She was our queen, she was our priestess, and she was our chieftainess. because she operated in all 4 roles, right? She was mother for the entire community. She was royal, she was regal, right? She was a queen. In terms of the spiritual ways of the community, in the guiding of the community, she was that person who would take on that role for the community. She was a military strategist for the community as well, so therefore she was a chiefess. Any leader of any ilk or any quality generally rules with 2 gloves. 2 separate pair of gloves. One is a cotton glove and one is a iron glove. And you have the cotton glove on and then you have the iron one and you put the cotton one over it.
And Queen Nanny did just that, making a community out of different African tribes with kindness and compassion. But she was also a stern leader, dealing with dissent while making tough decisions. Nanny was not only the political and military leader of her tribe, she also served as spiritual leader. Before Nanny and the Maroon warriors would go off to battle the British, she would prepare them for ambushes, the popular style of Maroon combat.
Warriors would be trained and everybody would be given a cut and they would send to a special pool in the river, right? Where they could go and dip in the water. And if you come back out and your cut is not well, then you don't go to fight. But anybody who dip and come back out and their cut was well, then they can go into fight. There are times when it required a consultation with the JIS, and if you consult the JIS and the JIS tell you can't go, then you don't go to fight. You do a lot of things, and that was going on the responsibility.
Always looking out for the well-being of her fellow Africans, Granny Nanny rescued slaves from the plantations on the plains. It's often said that after the Maroons signed the treaty with the British, they began to turn back runaway slaves, or even captured them for the British.
The fact is that the Maroons would have taken in more persons than they would have returned. 200 years ago, 275 years ago, it had much more vegetation than now. It was much more covered and more people could have come and stay in the community undetected by the authorities. The authorities had 2 white superintendents who were supposed to reside with the Maroons, and most of the time the Maroons make life for them rough so that they had to leave. So many of the time they never really have the white superintendent living with them, so they could take in anybody that they want. The Maroons would have deliberately gone to the plantation and take away slaves from the plantation.
What about her death though? Like, how did she die?
Well, the British want people to believe that them loyal slave copy did kill her in the war. But the Maroons themselves Nanny lived long after the war ended. She buried in a bump grave in Moortown.
Her legacy. Talk to me about her legacy. Legacy.
Today, Maroon communities such as Moortown continue to keep Nanny's warrior spirit and Maroon heritage alive.
We like Jamaica to know that we're still here. The generation is still here, and we're still keeping the things together. We still drum, we still dance, So Jamaica can just keep on, come and who want to can come and visit the community, and we're here, to take you on the tours wherever you want to go. You want to go to Nanny Falls, you want to sit and reason about Nanny. We're still here.
Up next, top stories making news this week.
Hi there, I'm Simone Wolf with your JIS News of the Week. After days of heightened preparedness in anticipation of a possible direct impact from Hurricane Matthew, government gave the all-clear for the resumption of normal operations in the country on Tuesday as the then Category 4 system moved away from the island on a path taking it across Haiti, Cuba, the Bahamas, and U.S. coastline.
Now we are happy to know that the threat of Hurricane Matthew has been entirely removed from the island.
Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie praised the response of the Met Service and disaster preparedness agencies, even as he promised a report on that response.
We are going to be examining a lot of the things that needs to be changed. We are going to make adjustments because it is necessary.
And even as government gave thanks for Jamaica's near miss, Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced that government would be assisting the people of Haiti who were not so fortunate. It was subsequently announced that the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management OPM was leading government's response to Matthew's effect on the neighboring island through the Help Haiti initiative. Finance Minister Audley Shaw says that where possible, government will lower the interest rate on loan schemes it facilitates to commercial banks so they can offer better rates to small businesses, making them more competitive. That, he says, will begin with a World Bank funded loan scheme administered by the Development Bank of Jamaica.
I have my memorandum about to be signed on my desk now to instruct my financial secretary to sharply reduce the rate to maybe 1.5%, 2%. I might tell the DBJ to take off 0.5%. I'm going to say to the commercial banks, on this particular initiative, I want the small business to get that money at 7%.
The Finance Minister also announced that discussions were going well towards establishing a successor agreement to the island's extended fund facility with the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, which wraps up in April 2017.
That it is our intention to make sure that there's a seamless transfer from the EFF, which is what we're on now, to a successor program. In other words, we stick to our targets of fiscal consolidation, fiscal prudence. We'll have half-yearly reviews instead of quarterly reviews. And we have monies that are in reserve if we need it.
Government has signed a contract to buy 2 new fire trucks for the Jamaica Fire Brigade. Valued at $987,822, the pumper trucks are being manufactured in Minneapolis, Minnesota in the United States and will be delivered in mid-2017. The Ocherius Primary School is well on its way to fully ending its shift system after its classroom space was recently expanded by the addition of a new fully furnished 8-classroom block.
Approximately 300 students are now able to sit comfortably in a highly conducive and spacious learning environment. Not only that, but grades 3, 4, 5, and 6 are now off the shift system, and the entire ambience of the school has changed.
And Agriculture Minister Carl Samuda is urging the island's pig farmers to ramp up their pork production to ensure a consistent supply to the export market. In a message delivered by his ministry's chief technical director, the minister pointed out that in 2014, the industry exported nearly 21,000 kilos of pork, valued at over $1.5 million to Trinidad and Tobago, a feat which he said could be achieved this year.
A successful expansion of the pork industry is going to require improved and sustained efforts to grow the export of pork and pork products, even while we also improve the linkages and supply to the hotel and tourism sector.
And those were just some of the stories making news this week. I'm Simone Wolf.
And this is where we take our leave on yet another enlightening edition of Jamaica Magazine. We value your feedback, so keep the link through our various social media platforms. Send an email to jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm and visit our website, jis.gov.jm, for the latest on government information. Until next time, I'm Adrian Atkinson, reminding you to take care of your health, eat well, exercise, get adequate rest, and make every day a productive one.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.